Hi, this is Dr. Gene Borquin, zooming in here from northern Thailand. I wanted to introduce a couple of documents today that will be important in the course that you're taking, but also important as you go into the profession of O&M and you teach and you meet new situations on roadways, and when you advocate for better accessibility in the built environment. So there are 3 documents I'm going to go through. This is a quick and dirty guide. So these 3 documents, I'm just going to zip through them, but hopefully this will make things easier when you start to use these things. So the first document is the MUTCD, or the Manual on Uniform Control Traffic Control Devices, the MUTCD, Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. It's a mouthful, and it's a document that's over 800 pages. It's available. You can get it on the internet, or if the class has one uploaded, you can download that. But it's a very, very important document. It's large, as I said, but there are really 2 sections you want to look at. It's so large because it is traffic engineering and traffic managers' Bible. This is what all the traffic engineers in the United States use, if not to the letter, at least as best practices and certainly for guidelines. So there are many sections, but the section that will probably be of most interest to you is Part 4. Part 4 is all about signals. It's all about traffic signals and pedestrian signals, and in detail what you need to know in order to teach about signals and advocate for better signals. 2 sections are important. Let me turn to the document right now and show you the beginning of it. This is what the manual looks like. It is the 2009 edition with the updates through May 2012. Yes, they are working on a new edition. The new edition, we're hoping, will have even more guidelines and requirements for accessibility. So let's take a look at part of this document here in the MUTCD. I've gone down into the first section that's important to you. First of all, I should note, is section 4D. 4D tells you everything about traffic controls. That is the traffic signal that's hanging up in the middle of an intersection, or other signals that you'll see on roadways and highways. So that's going to tell you about how traffic signals are designed and the specifications and the best practices. Right now we're going to look at Part E. So Part E is the pedestrian control features, and this is about pedestrian signals mostly. Things like pedestrian buttons, what the walk signal looks like, what the output from the various devices that control pedestrian movement at an intersection. And here I would like to point out the 3 terms that you have to know about when you use this manual. There are 3 things in each section, or in most sections. Let's look at section 4E04 here, and you can see it's about the illumination of pedestrian signal head indications. You know, what we call the walk sign in common language, but we're going to use the word signal, which is maybe more appropriate. So for these pedestrian signals, you can see there on the right, towards the right, different familiar images that you may have in your community. But the first thing you'll see is the standard. Usually in the language of the MUTCD, if it's a standard, it's what you really want to do. And that is usually accompanied by the word shall. So when you see something in the MUTCD that says shall, that means, yes, if you're a traffic engineer, that's what you should do. But note the word shall, because under all these standards here that are saying shall. You can see where my cursor is now. There's also guidance, and guidance has recommendations. Guidance is where you'll see the word should. It's a little less strong a mandate to do something. It's a recommendation, and it's something you should do, but not necessarily something you shall do. And the final thing you'll see in these standards sections here is options. And options are usually accompanied by the word may. You can see the word may here. And may means it's something you may do, and often that's you may do it if such and such is present, or you may do it under such and such circumstances. So this is where you go, section 4E, to look at pedestrian controls. Anything from a push button to an accessible pedestrian signal, this is where the information is. The previous section, section 4D, is for traffic controls. APS technical standards are in the MUTCD. So this is a document you should have in your professional library. It's something that you will use in this course and something that you should use the rest of your career. Okay, let's move on to the second document, which is the PROWAG, commonly called the PROWAG. Let me go to the top of it, and you'll see technically it's proposed accessibility guidelines for pedestrian facilities in the public right-of-way. Public right-of-way access guidelines is what PROWAG means, and you'll see these are from 2011. This is part of the Americans with Disabilities Act. This is some of the specifications in the ADA. But these specifications are proposed here, as you see, because they are still in draft format. Being in draft format means they may be used as guidelines for many urban planners and traffic engineers, but they are not law, and technically not even best practices. We are hoping that very soon these are going to be passed into law by the Accessibility Board. We've been waiting many years, in fact, since about 1992, for this part of the ADA to become law. So this is also the part of the ADA that probably will require accessible pedestrian signals on all new intersections, and also require APS when intersections are retrofitted, upgraded in certain ways. Here is where you find a definition and description of an APS. Again, the MUTCD has the technical standards. This has a description of an APS and the parts of the APS that should be in a device that's used in the United States contemporaneously. And again, this will set the basic requirements for accessible signals in the future. You'll also see other topics in this document. You can see here, there's all sorts of scoping, things like curb ramps and blended transitions, pedestrian street crossings, street furniture, all sorts of stuff that you might have encountered in other places in this course other than the modules that I'm teaching. And let's quickly go on to the third document, which is the 2010 ADA Standards for Accessibility Design. And these are from 2010. They're often just called the 2010 Accessibility Design, or a shortened term like that. And this will have in it a lot of the things like detectable warning surfaces, communication technology, accessible routes for pedestrians, etc., etc. This is not a document where you will reference often in the modules that we'll be doing together, but it is a document that you should have in your professional library. So, coming back to you, I'm hoping this all makes sense. I hope that you dive into these documents with a little more confidence now, because you should be familiar with them. There's no way you're going to know every section and line and standard. I know quite a few, but even I go back to the documents when I need to specify something. especially if I'm talking to a traffic engineer who doesn't want to put in an APS properly. Anyhow, good luck in the course, and see you soon.